Some of you guys may not have lived when Deutschmarks were actually a thing. Probably most of you guys. Deutschmark was the currency of Federal Republic of Germany, which those days was known as the West Germany. This was before unification. You know, French used French francs, Spanish used peseta, Portuguese used escudo, and so on and so forth. But after 1999, a lot of these were replaced by euro. And these accounts were known as euro-dollar accounts or euro-dollar deposits. It simply meant they're depositing the money somewhere in euro, but it's in dollars. But now the term euro-dollar refers to any dollar-denominated deposit that is domiciled outside of the U.S. But it is denominated in U.S. dollars. So you can have a U.S. dollar denominated account in Japan that is still called euro-dollar account. Right? There were standardized forward agreements, which we call them the futures contract, for euro-dollar interest rates. These were 3 months. They were based on the so-called LIBOR rate. This was a rate that was the basis of trillions and trillions of dollars of transactions. It's short for London Interbank Offered Rate. Basically, there was a consortium in London of about 20 banks. They weren't necessarily British banks. The banks in the consortium, every day, noontime, every business day, noontime in London said, this is the rate at which I'm willing to lend money to anybody in the LIBOR consortium. Okay? 5.25. Each of the 20 banks have done this. They average those to the LIBOR rate. It was a nice little reference rate, and credit wasn't much of an issue because these were all big banks. But a lot of, especially derivative transactions, started becoming unlikely. I mean, I'm not going to cover it in this class, but you can have following contract. You can say, every 3 months, I'm going to pay you LIBOR, but I'm going to cap it at 5%, but there will be a flow of people. Depending upon where you are on the transaction, you may like that it should be staying below 5% or above 2%. Right? That means you have an incentive to manipulate that trade if you could. And in many cases, these banks actually started colluding. There was either tacit or explicit coordination that kind of started manipulating LIBOR. That created scandals. So LIBOR is no more, which means euro-dollar futures are no more. They were pretty much the bread and butter of short-term interest rate. Now we have something called STIR futures. They're a lot more complicated. I mean, conceptually it's simple, but the way it is administered is complicated. So we'll talk about how to use those, how to actually figure out what that given rate means for the rest of the contract. Right? And Fed actions typically affect those short-term interest rates. But today we're just going to do forward rate agreements. So let's do something simple for now. Let's say I want to borrow for 1 year, starting in 1 year. For the calculations, it doesn't matter, but I always like working with big numbers. Say, and then we have transactions rates like these. We always use the numbers that we call it the nominal value. I'm basically using $1 million as an example, right? So here's what I want. I want to have $1 million given to me 1 year from now and I would like to pay that back 2 years from now with interest. There are two ways I can do it. One, I'm going to go to Clay and say, Clay, be a good boy and agree to this, okay? But you're going to agree on the rate right now. You're going to say it's 5%, and you're going to honor the rate. As long as I'm willing to take the risk that is not going to honor the agreement, I'm good. That's one way. That's the direct way. The second way, I call it poor man's forward. I'm just gonna not trust someone like Clay, and I'm gonna do something else. I'm gonna do the following. So let's call this the Clay way, okay? This is a straightforward forward. Suppose that forward rate, and I'm going to denote it as 1-2. A forward rate that starts end of year 1 that ends at the end of year 2. That's what subscripts mean. Let's say that's 5%. Okay. So at the end of year 2, I will pay $1 million times 1 plus 5%, which is of course $1,050,000 or $50,000 in interest. Okay? That's the cost of forward agreement. The alternative way, let's call this poor man's or woman's way. Well, I don't want to take the risk of waiting 1 year. 1 year from now, the 1 year interest rate's not of interest. I don't want to take that risk. That's one of the reasons you do a forward agreement like this. That may be one of the reasons. So I'm going to borrow now, but I'm going to do that for 2 years. Okay. I'm going to call this borrow some amount, and we're going to determine what that amount should be, and deposit that amount, and lend that amount for 1 year until I need it. Well, the trouble is 1 year and 2 year rates are almost never equal. So I borrow at the 2 year rate, and lend at 1 year rate. Currently, two-year rates, let's find out. I'm just going to look at the summary numbers from CNBC. If I hit markets, bonds, U.S. Treasuries, I'm going to use U.S. Treasuries. 2-year rate is 42.97. That's in basis points, of course. And the 1-year rate is 47.59. Before we even do anything, what does it tell you about what market is thinking? The 1-year rate is about 45 basis points above the 2-year rate. So what does that tell you in terms of what market is thinking? Whether or not market is right is besides the point. They're only asking about what the hell were they thinking where they're willing to get less for 2 years compared to 1 year. Remember, the so-called second law of thermodynamics, entropy always increases, which is kind of a fancy way of saying more and more crap happens over time. Okay? So everything else being the same, 2 year rates should be high. In this case, they're not. What do you think market is thinking? What message is that sending you? Tomorrow there is a meeting of the Fed, because you didn't know. They're going to decide whether or not they're going to keep the Fed funds rate the same, increase or decrease. The consensus is there's a 98% probability that they're going to stay still.